Hello everyone, I am Ron and I am the game design instructor for the Academy of Entertainment Arts over at Dixie Hollands High School. If you are one of my students, it's Mr. Flowers to you, and welcome to this video tutorial. Okay, and we are back. In the last video we went ahead and set up our reference images so that we could have them in Maya so we could model. And we are going to start box modeling. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the previous video, box modeling gets the name because when it was originally done, they used a cube, and they used the cube to make the shape, and the cube is the shape of a box. But box modeling is no longer specifically done just on cubes. You can do it with any shape that makes sense for your character. In this case, however, I will use a cube just for simplicity, but you do not have to use a cube. So go ahead and drop a cube in there if that was too quick for you. That was under Create, Polygons, and Cube. With our inputs open over here in the channel box, we're going to redefine the shape of our cube. So I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bit bigger so I can work with it. And I'm going to add a single subdivision. Let's see, do my width here. There we go. That's going to give me a nice cut down the middle. And then I want to add a couple subdivisions for my body. You don't want to do too many. I'll just do one actually for now. Across the height. That should be good. And then one along my depth. Now if we did this with a sphere, we would already have this kind of shape, which is why sometimes it's better to do it with like a sphere or a cylinder or whichever. But we're going to start from the basics here. Now with our cube shaped the way we need it, I'm going to go into my front view. So here's my front view. And I'm going to press 6 on the keyboard. That brings up my texture. And you can tell that I cannot really see through my, my cube here. So I'm going to go into its attributes. I'm going to right click on it, go down to Material Attributes. I'm going to bring the transparency up so I can see through my cube. This will let me see the image that I'm trying to map here. And now I'm going to select my cube. I'm going to go into Face Mode, and I'm going to delete the side I don't need. So since I am modeling the left side of my character, which is the right side of the screen here, I'm going to be deleting the other side. So I'll go ahead and select all of those, press Delete, and that leaves me this open box on one side. That way I don't have to model both sides at the same time. I can just model one side and then mirror it across. Okay. I'm going to go into Vertex Mode, that's F9 on the keyboard. And I'm going to start from my front view, and all I'm going to do is line up my vertices. So I'm going to make sure I'm in Vertex Mode. I'm going to select my bottom set. I'm going to move those down to the base of my character. And I'm going to take my top set. I'm going to move those to the base of the neck. I'm going to take this side. I'm going to move those down somewhere in here. And then I will do the same on the other side. So I'm going to go into my side view, press 6 on the keyboard to bring everything up. And now I will move everything in where I need it to be. So like this is my front of my chest here. I'm going to grab this group. Now I marquee select, that way I get both vertices. I'm going to move that back some. And this is where we're going to start rounding our shape. So I'm going to grab that group, I'm going to move that to the back of the character. This is where the belly is, and the belly kind of comes out. Just watch your edge flow so everything lines up nicely. Make sure we're working in quads here. And his bubble butt kind of comes out, so I'm going to move the bubble butt out a little bit. And then the front of the belly, I'm just going to move that in. Now, as you're doing this, don't try to copy exactly my model. Work with the edge flow that you have. My character is kind of drawn this way. You may have drawn them somewhat different. Yours does not have to look exactly like mine. The principles are the same though. So I'm just mapping the detail that I have to the shape that I have. Okay? And you don't want to add extra detail until it's time. If you add too much detail early, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to model. So I'm going to jump into my front view now, and you can see in my front view, because I've moved things off axis, they're kind of skewed. Like I have these 3 vertices right here. Well, I have 3 vertices because I really do have 3 vertices. If I go into my perspective view, you can see them right here. 1, 2, 3, right? There they are. Since I moved them off of my axis in my side view, this one's further down than this one, and this one is further down than that one, but higher up in the front. So if we go to the front view, we can see all 3 of them. That gets a little bit dizzying. You have to kind of get used to that. Don't worry, they're okay. I'm just going to grab all 3, and I'm going to move them to form the shape of the shoulder that I want. You see how my shoulder kind of tapers? Just going to move it in, and right about there is good for my shoulder. Do the same thing for my side here. Pull that into where I think the side of my ribs might be. And then bottom of my torso, I'm going to grab those, all 3 of them, and move those to where the base of my torso is. You can see where it connects to the leg. And that's where I'm going to have that part. Okay. Now I'm sticking to the middle of my image here, and you see my image is not perfectly center. If I were making a character for like a studio, I would definitely have this centered, but for this example, we're not going to be that OCD. But that should work. Okay. And now it's just a matter of eyeballing it and kind of shaping things as you go. So we know that these 2 edges on a person would be kind of round. So what I can do is I can move them inward a little bit. What that'll do is it'll create a little bit of a curve. So if I grab those 2, and I'll keep all 4 views up so you can see. So from the top, that one and this one. If I go ahead and grab these and I move them in, you can see it creates a bit of a curvature, right? But it looks a little bit weird from the front. That's okay. Don't panic. That's fine. I'm going to do the same thing with these 2. I'm going to move those in just a little bit so I get a little bit of roundness. And I will do the same for these top 2. Now I have this rounded body. If I come out into my perspective, my body is no longer a block. It's kind of rounded off. Okay. So that's the torso. And if you want to see the torso displayed symmetrically, I'm going to go ahead and go into Object Mode. We'll select our torso. I'm going to go up to Edit, come down to Duplicate Special, and grab the options here. In the options, we're going to set this to Instance, and we're going to have this parented to the original object. And since my Z-axis is my front axis, that means my X-axis is my left and right axis. So if I come down to my scale here, you can see that my scale, by default this is set to 1, 1, and 1, but I'm going to change this to a -1 in my X. That means that this is going to be mirrored across this side. And I'll just hit Apply. So now I have this mirrored version of my torso. Now it's hard to see because of the transparency, so I will select it, and I'll just drag my transparency down. If you don't see your options, your attributes here, you can always right-click on it and go to Material Attributes, and that'll get you back here. You can see our torso. Okay. And there it is. Simple, not too complicated. I'm going to drag my transparency down some. And I'm going to call the video right about here, just because this is as far as I want to go for modeling the torso. In the next video, we're going to add the arm for our character. Okay. Make sure you save your work. I'm going to save this as iteration 1. So this will be 0, 1. And I will see you guys in the next video.